What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so what an exciting day because we are not on hiatus anymore. And today we are going to be talking about Survivor Season 38, Edge of Extinction, the premiere episode. And if you saw the boot list that we did, my first pick to go home was correct. So very excited about that. So my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and one of the things that I was not excited about was that this premiere was only an hour long. I feel like premiere episodes are really important because they establish all of the characters and stuff that we're hearing from, and I feel like we just didn't hear from so many people. Um, I'm a little sad that this premiere was only an hour long. I was prepared for like 90 minutes or even 120 minutes of Survivor, and then it did not deliver, and I was upset.
Yeah, I watched it after the premiere happened and I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down for 2 hours now and watch Survivor. And then I clicked on it and it was only a 43-minute episode. And then I was like, this is so sad. My body was ready and prepared to watch 2 hours of Survivor. But I guess you can't please everyone. When it's in 90 minutes, people complain that it's too long and boring. When it's only an hour, people complain that we didn't get to see enough of the players. So there's no middle ground.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, you can't please everyone, and I guess part of it is I guess what you would say, we're super fans of Survivor. So I think that probably contributes to us being a little upset. But I also think that, like, for the casual fan, they don't know who half of this cast is if they didn't look it up beforehand. So
Yeah, like everyone sort of looks very similar. For the people we didn't see this episode, Julia Carter barely got any screen time. Chris from the tribe that went to tribal council, he got to talk at tribal, but he never had a thing that like had his name show up on the screen. So I was like, who the heck is this? I was like, is his name Dan? But then it turns out it was Chris. And then I was really confused. So if you don't even get one confessional when your tribe is the one going to tribal, I was like, that's really crappy. Julia Carter didn't go to tribal and she didn't get like a big talking scene, and a lot of other people did. So I was like, oh, guess they're maybe not that important then.
yeah, and I think that one big thing is we did see a lot from all of the returnees, but I feel like we saw more from one of the returnees than maybe the rest of them. So I think that's going to be interesting to talk about when we get to that point. But yeah, overall, I feel like this was not a bad episode, but I wish it was longer and I wish that we had seen more people.
Yeah, I agree with the whole returnee thing because a lot of the tribe dynamics was centered that we saw around like, oh, how do we balance asking them for help versus relying on ourselves? Do we target them early? Do we keep them around kind of thing? And so it's like, sure, we got confessionals about people, but they were talking about like Joe and Aubrey or Kelly and David. And I'm like, what do you do in your real life job besides talk about Kelly and David all the time? So I agree. I definitely think a lot of the conversation that we saw was focused around the returnee players, but I guess that's what you have to do for storyline. They do have semi-targets on their back, so that's something that you have to put in for the storyline. I was confused. Some clips, if you look closely, Joe has a mustache and then others he doesn't. So then I was like, when is he shaving? When did he shave his weird ass handlebar mustache off? Because in some of the preview clips at the beginning where it shows like, oh, this is everyone when they're doing the like sandbag fighting challenge, it looks like he didn't have a mustache there. So I'm like, what's happening? Why is Joe sometimes having a mustache, sometimes not having a mustache?
I feel like having a mustache on the island would be really inconvenient though. Like, doesn't it get like hot and itchy? Like, I've never had any sort of facial hair, so I don't know. But I feel like if you're sweating and like getting in the sand and stuff, sand would get caught in it, your sweat would get caught in it, and it would just overall not be a pleasant experience.
Yeah, so Joe, I guess I was also like Rick with the last name treatment already. Jeff Probst just calls Rick by his last name. And I'm like, who the hell is this dude with the D name? And I was like, oh, he's talking about Rick. And it's like, what? How does Rick get last name treatment already? Like Kelly Wentworth, yes, makes sense. I was very happy when she was like, oh, introduced as just Wentworth. But like Rick, the news anchor, why is he last name treatment?
Yeah, none of this makes sense. I also thought it was really funny how he announced at the beginning that he was a news anchor because people like aren't intimidated by news anchors. I was like, oh Rick. Oh Rick.
Oh, Rick. So the boat scene is where we start off the episode. I always like when they do these kinds of like active things at the beginning. I wish it were, I guess, a challenge always makes it funner, like heroes versus villains when you do a physical challenge. Boat thing seems like it's been popular in the last few seasons, and so that's what we're going to do. But the boat thing, it was, I don't know. I like it when like we see them do the boat and then there's some kind of goal, like, oh, you need to balance getting things on the boat versus, oh, going to go race to get something further away and swim to it kind of thing. So this just seems like there was no point to it. It's like, okay, grab things on the boat, but there's no larger goal that you're working towards.
Yeah, and it's like when it's just grab things on the boat, it's not really worth showing. And I guess I was reading Dalton Ross's recap from EW, and he was talking about how there was something where like there was something underneath the boat that they could like swim out and grab, and they didn't even show that in the premiere. And I was like, what? So yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know, like, okay, cool, they're grabbing stuff, but like, what's the purpose if there is no larger, like, oh, race to get a bag of rice? Otherwise, you only have fruit on your team. So you want to like balance the time management on the boat versus time management swimming. How do you do that? So, like, making it more of a challenge, I think, is always interesting because, like, who cares what they got on the boat? You just see people throwing fruit off the boat and Keith almost drowning, which I'm like, this is some racial stereotypes right here. But like, I don't know. I think I would have preferred, I guess, to see some kind of challenge.
Yeah, and I think also just like you said, it's just there needs to be a challenge in order for there to be like something worth watching. So the boat scene was overall meh.
Yeah. So I think it was interesting. War Dog, is his name Dan? I don't know what his real name is, but
Yeah,
War
it's
Dog,
Dan.
that's the one named Dan. So like, okay, he gets the first confessional of the season, and then Wendy also gets a confessional during the whole intro to the boat scene. So I'm like, more dog with the weird name, but potentially going far because he gets the first confessional. Wendy, she was in the preview from the last season finale, so she could potentially go far or be a big character. That was interesting to me. I thought it was also interesting. It was cute. Like, everyone was so excited to see the returnee players when their little boat drove up. It was interesting how Jeff announced each of the four returnees. So Kelly Wentworth, he was like, oh, the first woman to ever find two hidden immunity idols. Erase San Juan del Sur. All of her confessionals literally just says like second chance. Was she even on the other season? It seems like they're trying to erase it for some reason. David, on the other hand, gets the talk about, oh, David was scared of everything. So it's a more like, Kelly's so great. She's the first woman to find two hidden immunity idols versus Jeff talking about David really downplays how good of the game David is. So I was like, this is sort of unfair. Joe was like, he has a massive target, 16 challenges because he's so great at challenges. Aubrey was the whole crying in the shelter last 76 of the 78 days. I feel like the way Jeff talked about certain people put a bigger target on their back just because you like either play up their accomplishments or play down their accomplishments.
Yeah, I wonder, like, to me, it feels like he shouldn't have introduced them at all. Just been like, these are your returnee players. Because I think that letting people make their own introductions or lack thereof, or like letting the newbies like take their own knowledge of Survivor and apply it to like the four returnees would be interesting and I feel like would result in a different kind of bias. So I don't know. I agree with you about Jeff, like, seeming to hype up some people more than others. And I don't know. I don't like it just because it seems unfair, like you said, especially to, like, Kelly and Joe, because it's talking about how, like, much of a threat they are. And David's, like, almost won his season, and that wasn't even mentioned. So,
Yeah, I'm like,
um,
David was literally final four, and then he was so scared the first day of like leaves or whatever. So I don't know. Maybe some like target creationing there. Uh I think, yeah, make David seem less good than he really is. So, also on the boat, Ron finds this advantage. And then I was sort of like, is it just luck that you find the advantage? Or is it like adrenaline that you don't remember to look for an advantage? And you don't want to be suspicious the first 2 minutes that you're out playing the game, kind of thing. But every single time there's a boat seen as the first thing that you're doing, there's always been an advantage or some kind of like clue or thing that people find on the boat. So it seems weird that we don't see maybe other people looking, or it's just luck that Ron happened to find it and like you don't want to be suspicious. But I don't know. I feel like if this has happened and it's been a pattern that there are advantages on the boat, why don't you just look solely for the advantage and maybe throw a few fruit off the boat here and there, but like mainly advantage search? Because like the adrenaline's so high, no one's going to be watching what you're doing if you're actually helping the tribe get goods, or if you're looking for an advantage, especially when there's no like time limit for like we need to get goods versus go swim for rice. You just like 2 minutes on the boat.
yeah, I think that one of the things is, though, like, we see a lot in Survivor, people seem to be running out of food more. I'm not sure whether that's something that, like, I've just noticed, but, like, last season, Angelina, like, gave up a chance at immunity so that they could have more rice because they were running out of rice. And I feel like people, maybe I'm just biased because I remember that season because it was just this past season, but it seems like they're, like, running out of food more, so you'd want to have more food, especially because, like, if you have big guys like Joe on your team, they eat a lot. You need a lot of calories to, like, sustain something that muscly. So I wonder if it's like the advantage of the advantage. Is it as much as the advantage of the food that you could get while spending your time looking for the advantage? I guess. Like, if you happen to stumble across it while doing stuff for your tribe, I feel like that's different from, like, not doing anything for your tribe and then
Yeah,
looking
I
for the
guess.
advantage.
Because it's also like who's really paying attention, whether you're helping the rest of the tribe gather fruit on the boat or just lifting up stuff and putting it back down. It might be a little more sketchy if you lift, throw it off, and then like keep doing it, but like not really throw it in the right direction kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because I feel like, especially this early in the game, like, yes, food is important, but wouldn't you rather have Ron's advantage?
I think, yeah, I think that it's just a matter of, do people think about that and then they're not entirely sure that there's going to be an advantage, and, like, all these other things. I feel like it's a lot of, like, calculus that I would not feel like doing my first day of Survivor. So,
Yeah. So I guess it would be interesting to hear from players if like they were actively looking, or if like the adrenaline was so much that they just forgot that there is an advantage on the boat. Because I was surprised, like, wow, a returnee player didn't kind of do this, find it potentially, or like say they're looking for something, but maybe it's just editing. They cut it out because it was only a 43-minute episode. But Ron gets this advantage menu. So, not even one advantage. He has the choice of three things. One of the first things was steal the reward. Second thing is an extra vote. Third thing is an individual immunity idol, basically, kind of thing. Steal the reward. I'm like, why? I don't do it. I think it's too early to put too much of a target and bring too much people looking at you this early. And it's like, that's just so visible. Adam, when he had the steal a reward, like you can't, especially when it's a group reward of 9 people right now, you're taking chickens or whatever away from the other tribe. Too many people will be pissed off at you. Too visible, I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the things is like if it's really rainy and cold, then you might want to like steal the flint so that you can have fire and not like freeze to death. But that wasn't really a concern for them. And it's not like the early seasons of Survivor where it was really necessary that they get a fire because like their water would need to be boiled before they could drink it or whatever, and they die. So yeah, I feel like stealing a reward is bad, especially if tribe flips are coming up, because then you might end up on the same tribe as someone you stole from.
Yeah, or a tribe swap, and then you're just swapped out of the tribe with blankets and chickens because you just stole it and then you get switched out onto the other island. I think, yeah, like Blake is saying in the chat, it would be good TV. Ron is good, very like bubbly in his confessional. So, like, it would be interesting to see. Ron still has the weird eyes, though. Like, he just looks creepy when he looks at you. I don't know. So, extra vote is his second thing. I think this could be good if, like, maybe the vote's up in the air on his tribe if that tribe does go to tribal, which I think he might not even be able to use it because he's on the stacked tribe right now. I say blue tribe goes back to tribal next week. So Ron may not even be able to do it in the 3 like tribals that he does get it. But yeah, steal the vote or extra vote. I don't know. It's sort of up in the air, but if you know the numbers are majority and typically at the beginning it is a clear majority, it'd be a waste to use it.
Yeah, I was gonna say normally at the beginning of the game, I feel like there's a pretty clear majority and minority. I think it's only as you get like post merge that things start to get like really close. And or like if you were swapped onto a smaller tribe when like taking a vote or having an extra vote would be like a bigger thing because it's like one extra vote in a group of 10 is different from one extra vote in a group of 5. And yeah, I don't think that there's going to be a tribe like split within the 3 tribals that he's allowed to have it. So
yeah. So I think individual immunity for Ron, probably the best one, but that Oling works if you have a target on your back. Maybe you can give this menu to someone else, maybe not. They didn't really specify, because if it's like a legitimate kind of similar rules to a hidden immunity idol and he can play the menu as an immunity idol for someone, maybe it could work, but I also would say that it's too early as well to bring that much attention to you. I think it's better just to lay low. If he's not having a target on his back, there's no reason to steal a vote. There's no reason to stand up and use a hidden immunity advantage this early, because then people will see that you're playing the game. And if he might not even go to tribal within the 3 votes. So I think best move for Ron, if he's not in danger, don't use it and just have the satisfaction that you found something.
I feel like this is one of those things that's designed to trip up the players who are always like, oh, you need to make super big moves right out of the gate. Because it's like, honestly, at the end of the game, if Ron gets to Final Tribal Council, it's like what he does in the first 9 days probably isn't going to matter as much as what he's done post merge. And so, in the long run, this advantage might not mean anything to his game and to his resume, except for maybe as like a way to build momentum. But like it does have the potential to backfire and put a target on his back and do all of these things that would be like bad for him. So I agree that like unless there's a very real and present danger, he shouldn't be playing it.
Yeah, I agree. So I was like, it was interesting when Ron in his confessional was like, oh my God, this is going to help me win the game. And then it says it's all in good until the 3rd vote. I was like, that seems weird. But yeah, maybe the momentum, the thought of just like being able to find things, I guess could help him. But Ron is already so dirty already. He's like rolling in the dirt. His white patterned pants are already brown. His yellow shirt is really gross. I'm like, this dude is like rolling in the dirt or something. No one else is that dirty but Ron.
I don't know. Maybe someone from his tribe put his clothing on the beach when it was wet. We just have no way of knowing.
It
But
was edited out.
yeah, obviously.
So returning players, it seems like they have a target on their back. Like we mentioned, a lot of the dialogue that the newbies had was about the returnee players. We see the confessionals from the returnees talking about what they want to do this time different, how they want to make it far, XYZ. So it was interesting to hear them say that they all want to work on their social game because, yeah, I sort of agree. Like, just they don't have the sense of surprise that they had their first time. Like David, you won't have that timid overlooked aspect this time because people know that you can play the game. Kelly coming back from the second time was overlooked because people were like, who is this? You know, voted out pre-merge in San Juan del Sur. Won't have that this time. And so I guess you really do need the social game and alliance so you don't have that big of a target on your back.
Yeah, I feel like Joe is the only one. Well, never mind. I was gonna say Joe is the only one who knows how to play with a target on his back, except for Aubrey in that one season, her second season that I don't like to think about. Um, she also played with a target on her back because Sandra wanted her gone, and a lot of people thought that she would have or should have won Go Wrong. And so I guess Aubrey and Joe know a little bit better about like how to play the game while being targeted, whereas David and Kelly not so much because they had the whole underdog thing going for them.
Yeah, I think yeah, Joe is always like he is Joey amazing, like he refers to himself to. I think it was funny how Aurora said, like, oh, I'm Team Joe. Joe's so hot, even though she's gay, kind of thing. I was like, dang, like, I thought it was just so funny. I was like, Aurora seems so cool. Just that one confessional, I was like, Aurora seems cool. She needs to have more screen time.
Yeah, I really liked that one confessional, and it makes me feel good about having her go far in the game, just because she doesn't seem too bad yet. So
Yeah, and I think it was interesting how the target seems to be on Kelly and Aubrey getting them voted out over the guys. It seems like we see Gavin and Eric have a conversation about let's vote Aubrey out, like I want to be the person to vote Aubrey out now kind of thing, and they want to keep Joe around as a shield. And I'm like, that's a really great plan. Joe probably wants to keep other men alpha dudes around as the meat target, similar to what Jeremy did his second time. But then I'm like, this is so crappy for Aubrey and Kelly that like they're already being targeted because the guy has a larger target on their back that they want to keep him around. So it's very interesting how like being so good is actually maybe better than being less good and how like the reverse kind of psychology works there.
yeah, and I think that like we've talked about sexism in Survivor, and like part of me wants to be like the fact that both of the girls are being targeted, like rings some warning bells. Except for like you said, it seems like they have good reasoning. Maybe like the logic to me seems very like I get it, but at the same time, it seems weird because it's like I feel like a lot of times in Survivor, you have people who say like, "Oh, they have such a big target, we can get them out anytime," and then when the time comes to actually get them out, people keep on bulking because it's like, "Well, maybe now is not the right time" and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see if they actually end up going through with their plan of like voting Aubrey out and voting Kelly out, just because I don't know. It
Yeah.
seems to me like a plan that is like begun this early is almost certainly going to change.
Yeah, hopefully, because I think just first, maybe I misjudged Gavin. He seems very smart, potentially really good at the game. Seems like he's thinking, and he doesn't seem as squirrely as he did in like the preseason photos. So maybe Gavin's gonna get far. Sorry, dude. For the Kelly and Aubrey thing, I'm like, even though I have Kelly as the person being voted out next episode on my boot list, I'm like, we're both on Team Kelly. And so the preview we see what Blue Tribe talking that like, okay, we need to get Kelly out. Like we said, she's more threatening than David because she has the whole 2 idol thing. Andrew Savage vote out, that kind of thing, versus people maybe forget David made Final Four and everyone thinks he's the weak kind of scared of leaves dude. But I feel like David's so much more snaky than Kelly. I think Kelly, she's very strategic, but it's more face value versus David seems very kind of like I'll stab you in your back, you won't see it coming. Also similar with Joe. David's just super strategic, and so I don't know. I'm like, I would be very sad if the plan actually did work next week and Kelly did get voted out next week, as the preview alludes to.
The thing is, I feel like they wouldn't put like big spoiler like that in the preview. It's like how I've said this before, like right after the immunity challenge, whenever someone says like this person is definitely going home tonight, that person is never the one to go home. And so it's like, if in the preview it's like Kelly is definitely going home, I would be willing to bet my bottom dollar that she's not actually going home. So
I guess it'll be interesting because if she did go home next week, like they would put that in the preview because people are probably watching to see the 4 returnees and like their fan favorites kind of thing, versus like you need to milk them for views for as long as they're on the show kind of thing. But yeah, I'd be really bummed. I think strategically it's smart to vote the returnee players out early. Maybe keep Joe around for the physical prowess. He doesn't lose any challenges ever. So I would say Blue is probably going back to Tribal Council next week. And you got a small pickings, 8 people to pick from to vote out of the game. And you probably want to make a big move. It could be like a Russell Hantz thing in that stupid season where Rob won. But like maybe some of the returnees have to go early and then it's rigged for Joe to win the game because of the Edge of Extinction.
yeah, I feel like Edge of Extinction is just a way that they're like getting the returnees to have as much screen time as possible, because it's like, you know that they're not going to come back to Survivor and then say no to going to the like Extinction Island place. So, and I feel like they have better shot than Reem of getting back in and a better shot of staying back in. So
Yeah, I agree. And then you can like the previews for next week on actual CBS is all like, oh, Reem's all alone, Reem's crying. So if like someone returnee or popular goes to Edge of Extinction, you can really milk that for all it's worth. And people will want to see what happens to XYZ on the Edge of Extinction. But yeah.
I'm kind of upset that we have to see more of Reem, just because like her personality was really grating to me, and I was like,
Yeah, so we'll first talk about Wendy and then we'll talk about the whole Reem show. So I think Wendy had a really like cool scene at the top of the episode when she's talking about her Tourette's, and I thought like that was very inspiring. I think it's so cool that she's very open about it, and like I just really liked that scene and felt like she could be very inspiring for a lot of people. And like a lot of times I guess we don't really see people talk about whatever that they have.
yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where people think that it's either going to be a weakness, or people think that it's going to be like a final tribal council, like pity party thing or whatever. So I get annoyed when people think that like someone's story at final tribal is going to be like what gets them the win, just because that, like, I don't think actually happens as much as people think it does. But I also really liked the scene. I like that she was like very unapologetic about it, because it's like this is a thing that she has and it's not something that she can change. And I think it's also one of those things where like people would have like asked about it, and so it's better for her to like be able to kind of control that story, I guess, and be able to say, "This is my thing," and now you guys don't have to bother me about it.
Yeah, I definitely like I really like Wendy. Like she seems so cool. So I think she's probably very inspiring. And so I I don't know, based on all of the previews and stuff, I feel like she won't be being voted out next week kind of thing. I think she can go very far into the game. I think her only issue this episode that we saw is that she shouldn't have been so gung ho about like sticking with Reem. I think she should have flipped on Reem. But then it just goes to show Wendy's character. Like she's super loyal. Maybe Wendy being so loyal to Reem could pay off with the Edge of Extinction twist kind of thing. But I feel like how Chrissy and Katrina were very close at the first episode of Heroes Hustlers. That I can't even say Triple H. I think first episode you cannot be so tied up about keeping a potential ally partner around when things change so quickly. And like we saw War Dog saying, how like, oh, if Wendy's so steadfast in her ways right now, how will I work with her later kind of thing. I think Wendy should have flipped on Reem. Sucks like, oh, your buddy is gone, but like it's too early to be fighting for a sinking ship.
The thing is, I feel like showing that you're like a loyal person would be like a good thing. Like, if you have to choose either Wendy or Keith to bring into your alliance, you're gonna want to take Wendy because you know that she's gonna be like ride or die for you. And I think that like if someone else can like get Wendy's personal loyalty the way that Reem did, that could really change their game. And so I feel like people need to be looking at Wendy as an asset for them instead of as a threat because she voted with someone who's voted out.
Yeah, I think it definitely is a double-edged sword. Like it shows you're super loyal, but it also is like iffy, especially when you've known these people 3 days and like anyone's just looking for something to vote you out on. And like we saw, Wendy got the split vote yesterday, Wednesday night, versus Keith didn't because Keith was the like sort of narc. He spilled the beans on the issue. But I think the whole Reem, Wendy, Keith trio that we saw, like I really liked Keith. I think it was so cool and he's talking about his school, stuff like that. And like of course the racial stereotypes, he's like literally one of the few people of color this season, and then it's just reinforcing stereotypes. It's like, where's the diversity on this cast? But like it's sort of sad that we saw Reem, Wendy, and Keith in the minority that quickly just because it's like two people who are not white and then Reem, who's older, being singled out. I don't know. And it's like they just wanted to be friendly and help Keith learn how to swim, and then they get stuck in the uncool alliance. And it just seemed like it was like popular kids with all the attractive athletic people versus the uncool squad of Reem, Wendy, and Keith.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things where like that quote unquote alliance could have just been avoided if Keith knew how to swim. It's like the reason that they were all together is because Reem and Wendy were helping Keith learn how to swim, and it's like, if you're going on Survivor, why do you not learn how to swim?
So, he just wanted to be better at swimming. It was so cute. And it was like they're just trying to be friendly, and then the other people twist it in a way to like have a malicious intent. Like, oh, they have some secret alliance going, like, haha, we have the numbers out of the 9 now because they just wanted to help Keith learn how to swim. Like, there's probably nothing else that they were doing on whatever day, but like, why not help Keith? And I was like, it was sort of crappy to see that like their good intent of helping a tribe member become better at something turned into like a divide in the sand.
I think it's interesting though, just because it does show like how, I guess, finicky things in Survivor can be, because it's like, especially in the first couple days when you're making your first impression, like you can't afford to be like doing anything even a little bit suspicious.
Yeah, don't go talk with someone one-on-one. You'll become a Kelly Lauren scenario. Don't be nice and help someone learn how to swim, because then you'll be in the minority of the tribe. So I don't know. I was just like, this is so sad. And then they got targeted because of it. But immunity challenge, like, of course, Joe makes the balance beam in one try and makes it look so easy, whereas everyone else was literally falling off left and right. The nets underneath were so scary. I don't know. It just reminded me of the time in One World where the girl broke her like hand arm thing in the first episode and then had to leave. I'm like, these nets are very unsafe. Look at them flopping. You could easily fall and like land wrong and hurt yourself or like crack your neck.
Yeah, like Kelly looked like she was in serious pain after she wiped out. Like, that just sucks. I feel like the thing with those balance beams, though, is it's not really about balance. It's about getting enough momentum because if you let yourself be too, like, shaky, then you're not going to be able to make those steps up. So, yeah. I,
Yeah.
I didn't know how to feel about this immunity challenge because even the quote unquote puzzle part still depended on, like, your physical strength. And I was like, I like it better when the puzzles are legit puzzles instead of like move big blocks around because then it's still like the strong people end up winning, I think.
Yeah, Kelly's fall was so scary. When I rewatched the episode, I like couldn't watch it. I had to skip it. When you see the people fall and then their whole body like contorts on the net beneath, I was like, they need to fix something. Someone is going to become paralyzed or something from these nets. Like that's why they stopped doing the blindfold big ass block challenges. People are going to get hurt. Wasn't a fan of the nets. The puzzle, yeah, it was the same puzzle from last season that Christian got in like 0.3 milliseconds from his slide puzzle analysis. So Alyssa and I will have to do this as a DIY puzzle. It's on our list because now it's come up 2 times. So we need to definitely do a tutorial. And of course, Joe's team wins. Like Joe doesn't lose, so his tribe won and Blue tribe loses.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the big puzzles like that, there's this game that I used to play as a kid, Rush Hour, and that's exactly like what that puzzle is. And I feel like people just like need to play more games before they get on Survivor because it's like so many games I feel like can help you with the puzzle aspect of Survivor. And I still fail to understand like why don't people like do puzzles? Because like I think we've talked about in like our like tutorial section before about how like solving puzzles is a state of mind. Like you need to get good at it by practicing a lot of different puzzles, not just by memorizing solutions. So
Right? Because it's just like training your brain to think in the certain way, similar to like, I feel like CS code. It's sort of like thinking outside the box in innovative ways to solve the problem that's at hand. And if you are in like a profession or a field where you might not do that kind of next level creative thinking, then it's like you need to practice that with your brain.
yeah, it's like even if your brain isn't a muscle, it behaves like a muscle. So yeah.
Yeah. So, immunity challenge afterwards, Reem and Wendy we see by the well with Rick, goes by the last name now, and Keith. And they put out the name of wanting to vote Lauren or Kelly out. And then I was just like, Survivor 101, isn't it never good to say a name, especially first 3 days? Why are you saying a name out loud? Because then they just twist it and be like, oh, this person said this about you. Let's vote them out, kind of thing, which is exactly what happened here. But like, I think Survivor 101, it's especially this early, you don't want to be the person to say the name. We saw it when Sierra Easton got voted out first in what Game Changers second game Game Changers because she put out the name. Like you just don't, I feel like. So you want to be the person like Rick did very well at the well, ask what everyone else wants to do and then don't confirm nor deny so they can't really be mad at you later, but just be like, what are you all thinking? Hope someone else throws out a name and then go on board with the plan because you don't want to be the person being thrown under the bus.
Yeah, and I think also with like the whole throwing out a name thing is like people need to not get super butthurt if like their name is thrown out because I feel like the worst reaction you can have to your name being thrown out is to start being like, oh my god, I'm not a threat, blah 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 blah. Like you need to gently steer away from you, but not be like super like about it. Because I feel like Reem kind of did that, and it's like she ignored the fact that like other people's names were thrown out, and it's like, come on, you can do this.
No, yeah, I 100% agree. I think good for Keith for playing the middle person and saving himself by like being the snake in the grass. Like, oh, he heard that Reem and Wendy wanted Lauren or Kelly, so he went to the majority of Lauren and Kelly and told them the information. Keith didn't get any votes at the episode, whereas Reem and Wendy did. I agree. I think like Reem's attitude after she heard her name being thrown out, she made it all about herself. And I think, like you're saying, if your name is thrown out, things change so quickly. It's literally the first 3 days. Maybe people aren't as willing to change the vote, kind of thing. But things could happen. Maybe someone's more annoying than you. But like Reem's attitude after, she was just like, all of her confessionals, it was sort of off putting. She kept calling people dude a lot. She's like, screw them, they're idiots. She flips them off. And I'm like, what kind of attitude is this?
Yeah, I feel like she just went immediately into like they hate me, they hate me, they hate me, instead of like thinking about how to do damage control, which I think like her general personality doesn't seem well suited to Survivor, just because like she got very like prickly and defensive instead of like being willing to talk things through with people. So
Yeah, because it's like, sure, people said like she was annoying because she moved their stuff, but like, yes, maybe there's underlying things with like age and keeping the tribe strong as a factor to vote her out. But then it's like, also, I feel like even if those things are underlying the situation, how can you look past this attitude? Even when Keith and Reem are talking about Reem being a motherly figure, she's like, yeah, don't call me that, dude. Like, never put me in that box. And I don't know, just like whenever she had those confessionals, it seemed very off putting, sort of made me uncomfortable to watch. Like, why are you shit talking the rest of your tribe literally 3 days in, saying like, F them, they're so stupid, why would they want to vote me out? Like you're saying, rather than try to not be the person voted out, she just like heard her name and then was like, I'll accept my fate. Didn't change how she was acting.
yeah, and I think that this like attitude is going to be interesting for like the future, because like if she does get back in via the edge of Extinction Island, whatever twist, if she's still like angry at her tribe members when she comes back, I feel like that's going to be like bad for her when she comes back, because then she'll have a grudge, and grudges aren't good to have because it just turns more people against you. So,
Yeah, I feel like Reem, I would put a bunch of money on that she's not making it back into the show. I will put my money there. But if she did, honestly, I think that'd be like the worst TV ever and the worst kind of option for any of the people on her tribe that voted her out, because she would come back with a major vengeance. But I will safely probably put my money on that she's not making it back out of this Edge of Extinction preview. She's like crying and whatever already, which, like, okay, that's warranted. You're on an island alone. It's probably very hard. Okay. I could see maybe she quits next episode. I think that would be good TV. But I do want to see Reem and like someone else on the island who's forced to hang out with Reem one-on-one 24/7, because that would be some great dynamic duos happening.
oof, that would be. I feel like Reem and anyone else could be like a buddy cop movie where she's like the cranky, annoying one, and the other one is like a little ball of sunshine, and it's like, how are these two gonna like not kill each other? But then it works out in the end.
But then
So yeah.
I could also see, if Reem doesn't quit next episode, that's a tactic if you're just so annoying enough with the other people, especially when the numbers are small, like 2 or 3 people hanging out. Like, you could be so annoying that you make the other people quit because they just hate their life that much that they want to get away from you. Could be an interesting strategy if someone's like not strong-willed enough to push through for their dream. But I don't know. I could see Reem leaving next episode. It seems like she's having a very tough time. Being isolated like that is probably very hard. And I don't know. Reem is not winning the game. So if she stays, if she goes, doesn't really matter much to me.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be hard because if it's like Reem quits before the next person comes, and then they also like let the isolation get to their head, and then they quit before the next person comes, it's like, will there ever be more than one person on Extinction Island? We don't know.
Which I guess yeah, it's interesting, like, because from what we hear, we don't really know anything about this stupid island, but you could potentially have a jury of 17 people if everyone wants to hang out there for the time period kind of thing. So that would be interesting that, like, maybe you get voted out early, but you are hanging out with these people 24/7 on Extinction Island. That is a really good way to build up the jury vote at the end because you don't have to vote these people out. Yes, maybe you have to win the challenge against them to get back into the game, but like this is the part where you don't have to talk any strategy really with these people, but get to know them on the human level, which could be so good for the jury vote at the end of the game. So that would be an interesting aspect to see if people work Exile Extinction Island in that way.
Yeah, in which case, like, I'm not sure I like that aspect of it because it's like I don't want the person who gets back in to win just because they didn't vote anyone out. Just because that just seems. Mm, that, I think
Yeah.
it would be interesting if like someone on Extinction Island never like really had to fight to get back in. Like if everyone else quit or they made everyone else quit, and then they like were like the automatic like vote back in, that would be an interesting thing because then I feel like they couldn't even use the excuse of like, oh, I like fought my way back into the game on Extinction Island because it's like you didn't actually fight, you just were the only person there.
Yeah, I think there's just so much up in the air with Extinction Island. I feel like if you are doing an Exile Island-esque thing, I don't want to see 17 people at the jury phase of the game. I like seeing people when you're voted out. You are voted out. Try again if you're ever invited back to the show. But like with this whole thing, all the placements are sort of weird. Even though Reem is the first boot, technically she's not out of the game. She could make it back in. She could be on the jury and raise hell. I don't know. When Reem was going to Extinction Island, it was like so spooky. It was like a horror movie. I was like, why is the lighting so bad? She was just talking to herself. I was like, wow, what a cliffhanger. They don't tell us anything about the island. So I was like, this is some whack stuff.
Yeah. So I will be more interested in seeing like what is up with Extinction Island when it's closer to like the jury phase, I think, and when someone's getting back in. So
Yeah, I just want the people that aren't good TV to be voted out. I think in Tribal Council, it was very interesting. It felt rushed because of the 45-minute episode, but I appreciated the vote split. But when Tribal was happening, I was thinking like, oh, what if Reem has an idol? What if Wendy found something kind of thing? So the vote split, that's definitely a returnee player kind of thought process, probably because I appreciated it. I was like, good, you cover all your bases because if you put 6 or 7 votes on Reem, then the person whoever Wendy and Reem vote for is going home. So I appreciated the vote split. I thought that was good gameplay. Worked out too because they had the numbers and no one was flaky and tried to switch the vote.
yeah, that worked really well. I thought Tribal was interesting just because to me it seemed like Reem getting voted out was a done deal. And like what happened in Tribal just seemed to incriminate certain people more or less. Like I feel like Kelly, especially, like that Tribal was bad for her because it drew a lot of attention to her because there was a lot of like back and forth and she's like, it's not actually an honor to have your name thrown out to like be voted off. So I thought that was interesting because the tribal was like, even though Reem was like a done deal, or at least it felt that way to me, it was like she was dragging other people down with her.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see the progression because it was very rushed. Like Reem talks once and then all of a sudden Kelly and Reem are fighting and interrupting each other. So it would be interesting to see like how this was brought about. Maybe someone else mentioned it and then people got feisty, or like if Kelly and Reem just got off on the wrong foot and don't like each other, maybe it's Reem's personality that rubs people the wrong way. Guess we won't know after maybe Reem will come back, but I will put all my money on Reem not coming back. And she's going to get so much airtime next episode when she's on Extinction Island. So we get to hear her talk more. Yay.
Yay. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so overall, exciting first episode. I am so happy to be back in the swing of things. Survivor literally makes my week. I look forward to Wednesdays and then podcasting at the end of the week. We'll see next episode. Really praying that a returnee is not going home on Wednesday. I'll be very sad and then be sad.
I will also be very sad if a returnee goes home next. I really don't think one of them is, but I think that they might be like prepping us for a returnee going soon-ish, like maybe even pre-merge. So we'll have to see about that.
Yeah, so let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. We had a lively chat, a live chat, I guess it's called, during the episode of us podcasting. So we really appreciate that. But yeah, if you're watching later, let us know what you thought of the episode. Like Reem, dislike Reem, all that jazz. And we will see you all next week with a brand new podcast about episode 2 of Survivor.
Yay! Bye, guys.